In a long time. In the past, superpowers were considered pseudoscience. People think that so-called superpowers are just magic tricks to trick people. Those who believe in the existence of superpowers are idiots. However, such a stupid thing as this has been secretly poured money into research by many world powers. Moreover, the study participants were not magicians but leading physicists. Most importantly, in 2000, a declassified CIA file admitted that the United States had a secret plan to research superpowers, and they discovered that superpowers really existed. They even use their superpower, celestial eye, to see mystical relics on the Moon and Mars. What makes people even more amazing is that in 2015, one of the people with superpowers involved in that secret plan personally admitted to everyone that, during an assigned mission, he saw the future of humanity, and described what will happen in the world in the future. At that time, everyone present did not believe what he said. Until the Wuhan pneumonia epidemic broke out, people were shocked to wake up, seeing that what he said before was true. Do superpowers really exist? The most important thing is, what kind of things did the person with this superpower actually foresee that year? Operation Paperclip. In 1935, the third year after Hitler became the head of state of Germany. At this time, he was at the peak of his power, trying to unify the world for the Nazi Party. In Germany's most difficult moment, he not only gathered the strength of the people, but also dealt with it many difficulties, and also produced many Nobel laureates. But very few people know that Hitler's real weapon may not be military power, nor top scientists, but a group of superpowered people in Wewelsburg. It is said that that year Hitler had all the smartest scientists in the world. From a lot of scientific research, they discovered mysterious mystical skills hidden in the human body. So from that moment on, Hitler devoted himself to the study of the occult. But he completely could not have imagined that he would lose his superiority during the Second World War, and had to commit suicide on April 30, 1945. When news of Hitler's death was transmitted, U.S. President Truman immediately approved the Operation Paperclip, which successfully received over 1,600 leading Nazi scientists. That includes Wernher von Braun, who laid the foundation for America's plan to conquer space. That year, without him, the plan to land the Apollo spacecraft on the Moon could not have been successful. It is noteworthy that in the process of performing the Operation Paperclip, someone asked for instructions from their superiors whether to accept talents with Hitler's superpowers or not. However, this proposal was immediately rejected. The reason is that the senior leadership of the United States believes that only uninformed people in society believe in supernatural powers. It is a pseudoscience. Moreover, if special powers really existed, how could Hitler be defeated? So America moved almost all of Germany's outstanding talent, leaving only those with supernatural powers. But what they don't know is that because of this decision, America almost lost its position as the #1 superpower in the world. The reason is why? Extrasensory powers. On April 12, 1961, the Soviet Union launched the Space Shuttle Oriental 1, becoming the first country in the world to send a man into space. But at a time when the whole world rejoices that humanity has finally entered space, a secret meeting is urgently held in the United States. As it turns out, just a few years before the Soviet Union succeeded in sending humans into space, they had just launched their first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1. In just a few short years, the Soviet Union continuously won the leading position in the race to conquer space. Faced with these results, America still can't understand that the top scientists, the rocket experts of that time, are all in the hands of the United States. Then why was the Soviet Union able to consistently surpass the United States? At this time, a participant in that secret meeting passed 2 files to the president. A document shows that, after the Second World War, those talents with special abilities that were not transferred by the United States were taken over by the Soviet Union. Another document shows that every year the Soviet Union invests over 30 million rubles in research on human superpowers. That's the equivalent of $500 million today. At this time, the senior leaders of the United States came to their senses. They immediately gave orders, asking emergency agents to investigate this incident. At the same time, in 1970, the Americans quickly formed the Stargate project, devoted themselves to research on extrasensory perception, ESP for short. It is what people often call the sixth sense. The above information, from the past to now, has always been considered the highest secret information by the U.S. government. Sometimes someone stood up to report, but the people did not believe. Until 2000, the CIA was forced by the U.S. Freedom of Information Act. They were forced to admit to the public that, since the 1970s, the United States had carried out many plans to research mystical powers on the human body. The point is, through those studies, they found that anyone can acquire this particular kind of ability, through training. It's hard to believe. This record was published before the 21st century, but for many years now, it seems to have not been covered by the mainstream media. Even today, there is still a majority of people who think that supernatural powers are just a rumor. Did they know that the United States has long applied superpowers to many secret missions? Stargate Project. Since discovering the truth about superpowers, the U.S. senior leadership immediately appointed the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the Stanford Research Institute, to jointly form the Stargate Project. The project's mission is to use scientific methods to study supernatural powers such as retrieving objects from a distance, spiritual extrasensory, clairvoyance, seeing through objects, celestial eye, looking at objects from a great distance. There is also testing with some combat-capable military personnel. They undergo special training to acquire these special abilities. The main researcher of the Stargate project consists of two people, that is Harold E. Puthoff, who excels in the world of quantum mechanics, and another is Russell Targ, a supernatural physicist. At that time, their first assignment was to research a famous New York painter, Ingo Swann. It was a person with a special ability, the celestial eye. When starting out, the most important thing is to determine if Ingo Swann really has the power of the celestial eye. So the researchers did many experiments. First, the scientists took out the coordinates of the geographical position that had been prepared in advance, and then let Swann see it from afar. Through countless experiments, scientists discovered that Swann's accuracy rate was over 65%. So, they confirmed the celestial eye as a real superpower. Although Ingo Swann's accuracy rate is quite high, there are still scientists who are skeptical about him. During an experiment, another scientist suddenly came up with an idea, giving a coordinate in the Atlantic Ocean. Only saw Ingo Swann with her eyes closed. About 10 seconds later, he drew a small island. When scientists saw the small island, they were amazed, because that is exactly the shape of that small island. But this small island in the Atlantic Ocean is a nameless island. Logically speaking, it was impossible for Swann to know its form, unless he actually possessed the power of celestial eye. Due to the success of this experiment, the CIA began to fully believe in the ability of Ingo Swann's celestial eye. But they still did another experiment, to determine how far he could see as far. Observe the Moon and Jupiter. April 27, 1973, Ingo Swann arrived at Stanford Research Institute, as scheduled. He immediately realized that today's experiment was not like the previous ones, because at this time, there were many people gathered outside the laboratory. They came from the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, and NASA astronomers. Sure enough, then Ingo Swann received an order. They asked him to observe the back of the moon. According to Ingo Swann, when he learned the goal of the experiment, he was amazed, because he himself had never thought of looking as far as the moon. He didn't know if he could succeed. But if they had already requested it, he would still proceed with the work, following the instructions. Only saw Ingo Swann with his eyes closed. After about 3 minutes, he said, "I see a lot of tall towers. They are a bit like square stelae, with pointed ends. There are also circular structures and strange machines." The experiment progressed to this point. All the NASA scientists observing were satisfied and nodded. Then they signaled to stop the experiment. In fact, this time someone spread the word that the reason why NASA took the subject of the experiment was the back of the moon, because they already knew the answer to the back of the moon. Those are not the constructions of Earth people, and also the reason why NASA abandoned the program to explore the moon. After observing the moon, NASA again issued a new topic. They asked Ingo Swann to use the celestial eye to observe Jupiter. Although Ingo Swann found it difficult to understand, he still closed his eyes and continued to work. After a few minutes, Ingo Swann said again, "I see Jupiter. Near Jupiter there are bright circles. They look a bit like dust, but it is luminous." As soon as Ingo Swann finished speaking, the astronomers present began to whisper incessantly. Because in 1973, people only knew that Saturn has rings, completely unaware, even Jupiter has rings. It wasn't until 6 years after this experiment that NASA's Voyager rover captured an image of Jupiter's rings. At that time, people were surprised to discover that Jupiter also has rings. In addition to observing the planets, in 1979, American intelligence agencies received information that a Soviet Tu-22 bomber crashed in the African continent. Because on this plane was the intelligence the United States wanted most. So they sent the training official of the Stargate project, Rosemary Smith, to use superpowers to track down this bomber plane. To everyone's surprise, the U.S. military finally found the plane. Revelation of Lynn Buchanan. Lynn Buchanan is a senior intelligence officer for the U.S. Department of Defense Intelligence, as well as a training officer for the early Stargate project. According to him, the Stargate project, which was initially helped by Ingo Swann, has made great progress. Basically, it has been determined that everyone has superpowers, but to different degrees. It's just that there are superpowers that are now forgotten by humans, and degraded. Lynn Buchanan has publicly expressed that many people consider the Stargate project a joke, and think that America has been stupid to believe in the existence of superpowers. Little did they know that was really America's hope. It is worth noting that recently, Lynn Buchanan has once again been noticed by everyone. The reason is that in 2015, in an interview with journalist Linda Moulton Howe, he revealed that at the end of the Stargate project, they used the celestial eye ability to explore the future. According to them, the future human society will undergo a tremendous transformation, all of which began in 2012. In 2012, media outlets around the world did not stop reporting. According to Mayan prophecy, the world will end on December 21, 2012, causing people to fear for a while. But it didn't happen. Unexpectedly, in 2015, in Linda's interview, Lynn Buchanan once again mentioned this issue. He said, "I used to use Theen Eye to find out that December 21, 2012 is the tipping point. After that date, humanity will not be able to change the climate problems that humans have caused. But climate isn't the only problem humanity has to worry about." Lynn Buchanan continued, "I also visited the year 2050. During that visit, I discovered that the big cities in 2050 seem to be very deserted. Humanity will return to a state of agricultural production. Moreover, the population compared to today has decreased a lot. Probably the sudden drop in population." Linda was surprised and asked, "So do you know what caused the population to decrease?" "At first I assumed there was a war, but then I checked again, and found out it wasn't. There has been an event in the world that has caused a large decrease in the population, but not because of the war. I have asked a lot of people who can foresee the future like me. What amazes me is that their views are similar to mine," says Lynn Buchanan. "So, what causes the population to decrease?" Linda asked. "It's something else in the air. It is also possible that the toxin comes from the food," Lynn Buchanan replied. According to journalist Linda, at that time she did not think about the future that Lynn Buchanan said. It was not until 2019, when the epidemic broke out, that she suddenly remembered the content of this interview. Although this interview now seems to make people uneasy, but Lynn Buchanan still expressed that humanity will not perish. On the contrary, after experiencing these events, people experience the importance of nature, and that is the new age in 2050. Project finished. This project was stopped in 1995. The reason was that the CIA thought that this project did not have clear research results, so they ended the project with an annual budget of up to $20 million. However, this explanation is not accepted by the people. The reason is that the two scientists of the original project, Harold and Russell, later continued to research on supernatural powers. If superpowers really didn't exist, then why would they still engage in research? Some people think that these two scientists that year must have discovered something during the experiment. But due to pressure from senior U.S. leadership, they was not possible to publish their findings to the public. As for the senior leadership of the United States, under the pressure of the Freedom of Information law, the project is ostensibly closed, so they will not have to periodically declassify the project to the public. But what makes people curious is, in the process of later research, what other mysteries the U.S. government has discovered, of the human body, of superpowers. Thank you for watching. Hello and see you in the next videos.